The Sui dynasty was a short-lived imperial dynasty of China of pivotal significance. The Sui unified the northern and southern dynasties and reinstalled the rule of ethnic Han Chinese in the entire China proper, along with sinicization of former nomadic ethnic minorities within its territory. It was succeeded by the Tang dynasty, which largely inherited its foundation. Founded by Emperor Wen of Sui, the Sui dynasty capital was Chang'an, which was renamed Daxing, 581 to 605, and later Luoyang, 605 to 614. Emperors Wen and Yang undertook various centralized reforms, most notably the equal field system, intended to reduce economic inequality and improve agricultural productivity, the institution of the 3 departments and 6 ministries system, and the standardization and reunification of the coinage. They also spread and encouraged Buddhism throughout the empire. By the middle of the dynasty, the newly unified empire entered a golden age of prosperity with vast agricultural surplus that supported acute population growth. A lasting legacy of the Sui dynasty was the Grand Canal. With eastern capital Luoyang at the center of the network, it linked the west-lying capital Chang'an to the economic and agricultural centers of the east towards Hangzhou, and to the northern border near modern Beijing. While the pressing initial motives were for shipment of grains to the capital, and for transporting troops and military logistics, the reliable inland shipment links would facilitate domestic trades, flow of people and cultural exchange for centuries, along with the extension of the Great Wall, and the construction of the eastern capital city of Luoyang. These mega-projects, led by an efficient centralized bureaucracy, would amass millions of conscripted workers from the large population base, at heavy cost of human lives. After a series of costly and disastrous military campaigns against the Korean kingdom of Goguryeo ended in defeat by 614, the dynasty disintegrated under a series of popular revolts culminating in the assassination of Emperor Yang by his ministers in 618. The dynasty, which lasted only 37 years, was undermined by ambitious wars and construction projects, which overstretched its resources. Particularly, under Emperor Yang, heavy taxation and compulsory labor duties would eventually induce widespread revolts and brief civil war following the fall of the dynasty. The dynasty is often compared to the earlier Qin dynasty for unifying China after prolonged division. Wide-ranging reforms and construction projects were undertaken to consolidate the newly unified state, with long-lasting influences beyond their short dynastic reigns. History: Emperor Wen and the founding of Sui. Towards the late northern and southern dynasties, the northern Zhou conquered the northern Qi in 577 and reunified northern China. The century trend of gradual conquest of the southern dynasties of the Han Chinese from the northern dynasties, which were ruled of ethnic minorities and Bai, would become inevitable. By this time, the later founder of Sui dynasty, Yang Jian, of ethnic Han Chinese, became the regent to the court of northern Zhou, as his daughter was the Empress Dowager following her steps on being installed the emperor as a child. After crushing an army in the eastern provinces, Yang Jian usurped the throne to become Emperor Wen of Sui. While formerly the Duke of Sui when serving at the Zhou court, where the character Sui literally means to follow and implies loyalty, Emperor Wen created the unique character Sui, morphed from the character of his former duke title, as the name of his newly founded dynasty. In a bloody purge, he had 59 princes of the Zhou royal family eliminated, yet nevertheless became known as the cultured emperor. Emperor Wen abolished the anti-Han policies of Zhou and reclaimed his Han surname of Yang. Having won the support of Confucian scholars who held power in previous Han dynasties, abandoning the nepotism and corruption of the nine-rank system, Emperor Wen initiated a series of reforms aimed at strengthening his empire for the wars that would reunify China. In his campaign for southern conquest, Emperor Wen assembled thousands of boats to confront the naval forces of the Qin dynasty on the Yangtze River. The largest of these ships were very tall, having 5 layered decks and the capacity for 800 non-crew personnel. They were outfitted with 6 50-foot-long booms that were used to swing and damage enemy ships, or to pin them down so that Sui marine troops could use act-and-board techniques. Besides employing Zai and Bai and other Chinese ethnic groups for the fight against Qin, Emperor Wen also employed the service of people from southeastern Sichuan, which Sui had recently conquered. In 588, the Sui had amassed 518,000 troops along the northern bank of the Yangtze River, stretching from Sichuan to the East China Sea. The Qin dynasty could not withstand such an assault. By 589, Sui troops entered Jiankang, Nanjing, and the last emperor of Qin surrendered. The city was razed to the ground, while Sui troops escorted Qin nobles back north, where the northern aristocrats became fascinated with everything the south had to provide culturally and intellectually. Although Emperor Wen was famous for bankrupting the state treasury with warfare and construction projects, he made many improvements to infrastructure during his early reign. He established granaries as sources of food and as a means to regulate market prices from the taxation of crops, much like the earlier Han dynasty. The large agricultural surplus supported rapid growth of population to historical peak, which was only surpassed at the zenith of Tang dynasty more than a century later. The state capital of Chang'an, Daxing, while situated in a military-secured heartland of Guangzhou, was remote from the economic centers to the east and south of the empire. Emperor Wen initiated the construction of the Grand Canal, with completion of the first, and the shortest, route that directly linked Chang'an to the Yellow River, Huanghe. Later Emperor Yang would enormously enlarge the scale of the Grand Canal construction. Externally, the emerging nomadic Turkic, Tuju, Khaganate in the north posed a major threat to the newly founded dynasty. With Emperor Wen's diplomatic maneuver, the Khaganate split into eastern and western halves. Later the Great Wall was consolidated to further secure the northern territory. At Emperor Wen's late years, the first war with the Korean kingdom, Goguryeo, ended with defeat. Nevertheless, the celebrated reign of Ki Wang, heir name of Emperor Wen, was considered by historians as one of the apexes in the 2-millennium imperial period of Chinese history. The Sui emperors were from the northwest military aristocracy, and emphasized that their patrilineal ancestry was ethnic Han, claiming descent from the Han official Yang Zhen. And the new Book of Tang traced his patrilineal ancestry to the Zhou dynasty kings. Emperor Yang and the reconquest of Vietnam, Emperor Yang of Sui, 569 to 618, ascended the throne after his father's death, possibly by murder. He further extended the empire, but unlike his father, did not seek to gain support from the nomads. Instead, he restored Confucian education and the Confucian examination system for bureaucrats. By supporting educational reforms, he lost the support of the nomads. He also started many expensive construction projects such as the Grand Canal of China, and became embroiled in several costly wars. Between these policies, invasions into China from Turkic nomads, and his growing life of decadent luxury at the expense of the peasantry, he lost public support and was eventually assassinated by his own ministers. Both emperors Wen and Yang sent military expeditions into Vietnam as Annam in northern Vietnam had been incorporated into the Chinese Empire over 600 years earlier during the Han Dynasty, 202 BC, 220 AD. However, the Kingdom of Campa in central Vietnam became a major counterpart to Chinese invasions to its north. According to Abri, Walthall, and Pillay, these invasions became known as the Linie Campa Campaign, 602 to 605. The Hanoi area formerly held by the Han and Gen dynasties was easily recovered from the local ruler in 602. A few years later the Sui army pushed farther south and was attacked by troops on war elephants from Campa in southern Vietnam. The Sui army feigned retreat and dug pits to trap the elephants, lured the Chang'an troops to attack, then used crossbows against the elephants, causing them to turn around and trample their own soldiers. Although Sui troops were victorious, many succumbed to disease as northern soldiers did not have immunity to tropical diseases such as malaria. Goguryeo Sui Wars. The Sui dynasty led a series of massive expeditions to invade Goguryeo, one of the three kingdoms of Korea. Emperor Yang conscripted many soldiers for the campaign. This army was so enormous it recorded in historical texts that it took 30 days for all the armies to exit their last rallying point near Shanhagan before invading Goguryeo. In one instance the soldiers, both conscripted and paid, listed over 3,000 warships, up to 1.15 million infantry, 50,000 cavalry, 5,000 artillery, and more. The army stretched to 1,000 li or about 410 kilometers, 250 miles, across rivers and valleys, over mountains and hills. In all four main campaigns, the military conquest ended in failure. Fall of the Sui dynasty. One of the major work projects undertaken by the Sui was construction activities along the Great Wall of China, but this, along with other large projects, strained the economy and angered the resentful workforce employed. During the last few years of the Sui dynasty, the rebellion that rose against it took many of China's able-bodied men from rural farms and other occupations, which in turn damaged the agricultural base and the economy further. Men would deliberately break their limbs in order to avoid military conscription, calling the practice propitious pause and fortunate feat. 8. Later, after the fall of Sui, in the year 642, Emperor Daxing of Tang made an effort to eradicate this practice by issuing a decree of a stiffer punishment for those who were found to deliberately injure and heal themselves. Although the Sui dynasty was relatively short, 581–618, much was accomplished during its tenure. The Grand Canal was one of the main accomplishments. It was extended north from the Hangzhou region across the Yangtze to Yangzhou and then northwest to the region of Luoyang. Again, like the Great Wall works, the massive conscription of labor and allocation of resources for the Grand Canal project resulted in challenges for Sui dynastic continuity. The eventual fall of the Sui dynasty was also due to the many losses caused by the failed military campaigns against Goguryeo. It was after these defeats and losses that the country was left in ruins and rebels soon took control of the government. Emperor Yang was assassinated in 618. He had gone south after the capital being threatened by various rebel groups and was killed by his advisors, Yuan clan. Meanwhile, in the north, the aristocrat Li Yuan held an uprising after which he ended up ascending the throne to become Emperor Jiaozu of Tang. This was the start of the Tang dynasty, one of the most noted dynasties in Chinese history.